It was the Roaring Twenties, filled with economic prosperity, art, jazz, flappers, and its own Western cultural flair, especially in major cities such as Chicago, Detroit, and Los Angeles. Industrial boom and an easygoing spirit spurred after the end of World War I left people with their blooming aspirations and the hope of the American dream within their sight, and was apparent in every aspect of life. This jovial spirit, however, met its demise and left the American dream as merely a memory in 1929, when the stock market crashed, and the American people were lost in a sea of hopelessness. This is the beginning of the Great Depression.
Everyone wants to escape. Everyone's drawn to escapism to leave their lives for an hour or two. Josh Bowman. During the Great Depression, the top 1% held 40% of America's wealth. More than half of Americans lived below a minimum subsistence level, which on average was around $750 annually. Food and homeless shelters served more than they ever had before. People were pinching their pennies in order to put food on the table and keep the lights on. Lost and destitute, many people had to completely change their way of life in order to provide for their family and survive. Farmers who lost their farms because of the Dust Bowl had to leave their farms and head for a new life, California. By the end of the Depression, some 2.5 million people had left the Plain States, and of these, more than 250,000 farmers moved to California in hopes to provide for their families. Thousands moved into cities in hopes for jobs.
For the average middle-class family, a regular yearly income was $1,160. 3/4 of this small wage went straight to paying for essential basic needs for the family, such as food, water, and electric. In order to stay afloat, many families had to make changes, such as riding subways, smoking cheaper cigars, and letting go of servants, in which mothers then had to learn to cook for their families. Families also grew and canned their own food, and made their own clothes. Free pleasures were crucial for the middle class, like visiting neighbors on front porches, playing card games, board games, and neighborhood baseball.
Along with these free activities, middle-class families in the city also took part in a surprising and costly activity, going to the movies. Despite costing 25 cents per ticket and the minimal paycheck Americans were receiving, between 60 and 70 million Americans still packed into theaters each week. There were more than 15,000 movie theaters, and the film industry released around 100 movies a year by major companies such as Paramount and Universal Studios. Unlike almost every other aspect of the American economy, the Hollywood film industry boomed during the Great Depression, leading to a major question. Why did people spend so much money on a non-essential movie ticket while their livelihood was at risk?
Since the 1920s, films were idealistic and full of happy moments throughout. When the Depression hit, movies changed to more properly serve the times. Escapism, or the avoidance of reality by absorption of the mind in entertainment or in an imaginative situation or activity, became fiercely popular with movies during this time. Just being able to escape their poverty, stress, and reality became invaluable to the middle-class city folk of the 30s.
Hollywood knew that buying a ticket and sitting in a theater among friends and strangers was an independent and self-effacing action. They understood the shame of standing in bread lines and the helplessness of losing a job. Movies in the 1930s gave people more realistic visions of aspirations and attainment. Stars such as Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney, Shirley Temple, and Fred Astaire became models of strength, courage, charisma, vulnerability, and triumph as they sang, danced, and acted their way into the dispirited hearts of the American public. While relating to the harsh times, these settings not only capture the emotions of its audience, but also manipulates them with a positive turn of events at the end.
For example, in 1939, Hollywood produced The Wizard of Oz, in which Dorothy finds herself caught in a tornado that takes her to a mythical land far from her home. Her only desire is to return to her family. She traverses through this new, mysterious land to find that to return to her Aunt Em, she must click her heels 3 times and wish it so. Dorothy gave the people of the Great Depression hope that if they work hard enough and have a goal they want to achieve, their hard work and perseverance can make anything possible. In The Wizard of Oz, the magical Emerald City can be compared to a movie theater, in that they both provided an instantaneous escape into a new world, a world where anything is possible, a world where lions can be cowardly, a world where a teenager can defeat a witch, a world where wizards might just actually exist, and a world where anything is possible, if you just believe. Subsequently, for 25 cents a ticket, movies boosted morale and lightened the burden of their audiences during the Great Depression.
It was during this time that Franklin Delano Roosevelt instituted the New Deal. Essentially, the goal of the New Deal was to create jobs and programs to serve Americans and reduce unemployment. Along with these programs, large flourishing companies provided jobs to the jobless middle class and Americans in the area. Such companies, like film companies, contribute immensely to the growth in the American economy, in both providing jobs and spending and accumulating money.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
It was this immense spending from the film industry that both provided jobs and spurred economic growth in movie production and ticket sales. Most historians have therefore cited the massive spending during wartime, namely middle-class spendings on luxuries, such as movie tickets and film production, as a major contribution to ending the Great Depression.
The film industry allowed for people to escape their toils and the pain of poverty during the Great Depression. Sitting in a theater for 2 hours was an invaluable escape for the middle-class person, and it offered enough solace to give hope for a brighter future and the possibility of attaining their dreams once again.
Even today, Americans still use film to express emotion,
Sorrows,
Joys,
triumphs,
success,
loss,
and the American dream.
Go home, folks.